We'll do it live.
No.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill
Griffin.
O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching.
We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Take it away.
I am back again, y'all. Me, and I got a guest. I have a guest.
I blame Oprah. Oprah Winfrey was an institution in Black households. My grandmother used to watch her show every day at 4 p.m. If she wasn't home, she taped it on a VHS tape. Oprah was the best interviewer in the business and was known for asking the difficult questions that everybody wanted to know. She had the utmost credibility until Oprah introduced us to Iyanla Vanzant, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, Love and Marriage Huntsville. So many harmful personalities are descendants of Oprah Winfrey. To whom much is given, of them much will be required. I have to believe that Oprah understood that. It's not fair, but I'm old enough to remember when people wanted Oprah to run for president. She needs to be held accountable because she has introduced parasites into our society and into our culture that we may never be able to get rid of. Oprah absolutely needs to come to the carpet. Harpo Studios is responsible for a lot of the bastardization of Black pain. We have allowed Black pain to become for entertainment. And then we sit around and wonder why Black women aren't respected, why we aren't humanized. Show me one person whose life Iyanla Vanzant has fixed. Of all of those people who have poured their hearts out, all the generational trauma, family secrets, the despair, they come on seeking healing and the promise of someone fixing their lives. And I haven't seen not one life actually fixed. The only good thing that has come out of Harpo Studios was Queen Sugar. I give Ava DuVernay the credit for that. She is one of the most responsible stewards of Black creativity that our generation has ever seen, and I don't think we recognize or realize what a gift that is. To this day, Oprah has not come out and apologized for Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, and the other parasites that she has unleashed. She unleashed these vile mutants, and then she pops up every now and then to re-release The Color Purple, which no one asked for, or to interview Meghan Markle, or to talk about Weight Watchers. She very irresponsibly wielded her platform and her credibility, and she needs to be held accountable. How did we get here? I was triggered by this whole conversation about Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant and Dr. Raquel Martin. How did we get to the place where we were using the need for trauma-informed care and healing for the purposes of entertainment, profit, and to the detriment of our people? Iyanla Vanzant. Fix My Life was the first time that I can remember tuning in to see people being promised healing in exchange for profiting off of their pain. It was the real life exploitation of the pain of our people. When I did my research, it was actually Love and Hip Hop. We all turned in to watch the pain of a Black woman who was going through an unimaginably hard and tumultuous situation with the father of her children who had run off and married another woman. The first episode of Love and Hip Hop aired on March 6, 2011, followed by Iyanla Fix My Life in November of 2012. Perhaps what I find most interesting about Iyanla's show Fix My Life is that while she did feature just ordinary people that wrote in or applied to be on the show for one reason or another, there was also a very interesting intersection of pop culture. The Braxtons went on there. Keisha Cole drug her family on there. Karrueche Tran was on there. They had an interest in targeting and exploiting people that we already had some familiarity with. It was intentional. They knew what they were doing. Love and Hip Hop is produced by Mona Scott Young. Mona Scott Young was also a producer on a show called The Ultimate Merger. It was supposed to be a mixture between The Apprentice and The Bachelor. They took one of The Apprentice's most infamous characters, Omarosa, and promised to find her love from a collection of suitors that were handpicked by Donald Trump and his executives. Mona Scott Young planned on cashing those Trump checks.
You were running your mouth with him. I was running to the bank, sweetie, and depositing a Trump check.
The show was a flop. One of their spiritual advisors on the show was none other than Dr. Jamal Bryant. Jamal, is that you? Throughout this whole sick and sadistic situation, it became apparent that Black pain was profitable. So what would make a Black person trade their pain for public discomfort? The promise of healing. If they come and show us their pain, we're going to heal them. We're going to fix their lives. Isn't that the same thing that Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant is doing?
The Rockefeller educational system, along with the system of the United States, has rocked so many of you people to sleep, and I am here to help wake you up. The way that other women are tearing down Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant because she is choosing to see patients without a license is disgusting. The programming of these systems are working overtime. They do not need to do the work because the people are doing their work for them. These systems were created to cause judgment and scrutiny amongst the people. Us, the people, we, the people who need one another. Where did the information come from for these supposed titles and degrees? Where did the original information come from? Let's think about this for a second. The people who created these books, their knowledge that they had to create these books, did it come from someone else who had a degree or a title from a university or a college? Or did it come from someone's innate gifts and their passion to learn more about this stuff? So they went out and they researched it, and then they recorded what they researched, and their recordings turned into your textbooks. Something to think about. The system of higher education is nothing but another form of the caste system, case system, however you pronounce that shit. Those who hold degrees of higher education and licensure really believe that they are better than the people who chose to not go through that rigorous programming of focusing on one specific subject so that you can become a theorized expert of a specific subject. And I'm speaking on this while holding a degree as well as many certifications. It's crazy how people forget that the higher education system or the general education system was created to keep people down for real. It was created so that you would forget about your innate gifts and skills that you were born with. It was created so that those who put themselves in control can mold you into the people they want you to be, so that you would not remember and realize all that you were capable of, so that you would not remember that you are limitless. Cheyyanne Bryant, by her doing what she's doing, she realized how limitless she was. And all of the other women who are speaking on it and who are speaking about all of their licenses and their degrees and their research from their dissertations and all of this shit, y'all are nothing but haters, because she is getting the recognition that she's getting for making the decisions that she's making. She is on these podcasts. She's, being interviewed. She sat on the panel, for what was that show? That podcast show? I can't even remember it, but I did go to see them one time. But you people are being haters, where we are in a time where women need to stick together more than anything. Didn't this system earlier this year or sometime last year basically state that a lot of titles and degrees that women held were no longer being recognized? Come on. We are in the times where people are stepping up more and owning their innate gifts more. At one point in time, did the shaman need to hold any type of degree or licensure to heal those that were, that would come to her to be healed? No. Did the chief need to hold any type of degree or licensure for her people to come to her for her leadership? Absolutely not. In my personal experience and observation, when people choose to go and further their education, further than high school, they do it with monetary thoughts and gains. No one is really doing this because of their passion, for the major that they're going in. They do it because they say, hey, if I do this, I can gain this much money and I can live this specific life, instead of tapping into their purpose of what they were put here for, their innate skills. Whereas when you do the work that you were put here for, it no longer feels like work, and you serve those who you were put here to serve, because every type of work that we do, it is to serve the next person. Some of the videos that I've seen where the people are coming down and talking down on her the hardest are people who are like therapists and clinicians and things like that. Whereas I did therapy for 20 plus years. I sat in front of many different therapists, and there was never a resolution to any of my issues, because their job, just like in the medical field overall, is to keep you coming back as their patient. They do not get to the root issue of the problems. They suppress them so that you can stay on whatever form of medication they're giving to you. Hey there, yep, I'm calling y'all out. And this topic, I hold it a little more personal, because I once had a friend who held a master's degree and wanted to tell me about her, the amount of money that she was making. And then when I let her know that me with my little associate's degree and my professional license was making about $10,000 to $12,000 more than her at that time, she was appalled. What I've learned, when people go for these master's degrees, what they're learning is critical problem solving skills. Whereas if you were not programmed from adolescence, you would not believe that you needed someone else to solve problems for you. You would have just been able to learn how to solve problems on your own. And then you wouldn't need to pay additional money for someone to teach you how to think critically and how to solve problems critically as well. That was something else that I learned from that friend who held her master's degree, because she couldn't understand how I could come up with so many resolutions just like that to solve problems. And she said, damn, you have a brain like a person who, completed a master's degree program. No, baby, I just hold on to my innate abilities and my innate skills so that I did not give in to the programming so much and forget who the fuck I am and what the fuck I came here to do. But this here also shows that those who completed those master's programs as well as those doctorate programs, they were also taught to judge those who did not want to further their Rockefeller education like they did. They were taught to criticize those who are confident and who trust themselves to utilize their creator-given skills. Rockefeller, your programming has worked. I root for the natural healers. I root for those who step into their innate powers so that they can help heal those who need real resolution to their issues. Because those people are just taught by the creator to not keep their clients as their clients forever, unlike Rockefeller's programming.
This is what she meant when she said she didn't want to practice under a license, She makes more money without it, and doesn't have to be constrained by standards and ethics. She doesn't have a governing body. There's nowhere that if you are unsatisfied, you can appeal to, complain to. There's nothing. There's no standards for her. But $350 a session, you know what this is giving to me? Grift. And she's reminding me more and more of Dr. Umar. That's what it's looking like. The appeal is that she's a beautiful woman. She has quite a bit of intelligence, education behind her, but she wants your money. But it's not our money like the average, everyday black folk. No, it is the rich. Remember, her two most famous clients that I remember her saying, Nick Cannon and Ray J. Those two clients alone says she not good at what she do. Because those two losers have not improved at all. They just giving her money, paying to be in her presence. Because what we have seen of them, nothing's working over there.
Hey y'all, I am Dr. Nicole K-Mac. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and yes, I have more thoughts on this topic. Number one, this is the same person who got on social media, and I want to say in interviews, podcasts, whatever, and talked about who was in her DMs asking for therapy. And I'm pretty sure she said she worked with the person providing therapy, but she gave his name. She's also the same person that said, my client wrote the intro to my book. Here is the thing. When you are in a therapeutic relationship, it is a protected relationship. Your information, the content of your sessions, the identifying information is all protective. That is why we have HIPAA. That is why there are guidelines. That is why it is a requirement of professionals being licensed. If there is a violation of any of your rights as a client and your provider is not licensed, who do you report them or that violation to? At some point, we have to recognize that although people have the platform, although they may have a chain that says doc, although they present themselves as experts, at some point, depending on how you present yourself, what you're doing could be causing more harm to the field than helping people within the field.
I just had a conversation with somebody on Threads who posted this. Cheyyanne Bryant never referred to herself as a therapist. So I then posted the receipts of her actually presenting herself as a therapist. This is something that is posted on her highlights right now, where she posted an article written by someone at NBC where they referred to her as a marriage and family therapist. This is posted on her page. When I showed this to the woman on Threads, her response was this, essentially saying that that's an article saying that she was a therapist. That's not her saying that she's a therapist. If she reposted an article that was written by her, calling her a therapist, that is her intentionally spreading misinformation. And when it comes to these small publications, everyone knows that you can write in or pay to have an article written about you. And even if that wasn't the case with this particular article, they did not just claim that she was a marriage and family therapist out of nowhere. They got that information from her. I also mentioned the fact that there is a video out there where, while telling a story of a past client, she said these words.
It's so bad. It was like my first year of being a therapist.
The girl was still going back and forth with me, debating on whether a license is needed to practice in the mental health field. Just don't understand why so many people think that this is okay. If there was a person pretending to be a medical doctor, doing surgeries, seeing patients, treating patients, but did not have a license or the degree required to be a medical doctor, I feel like people will understand a little bit more. There is no way that anyone would allow a surgeon to perform surgery on them or anybody they love if the surgeon said that they're not licensed and licensing is not important. And let's just call a thing a thing. The only reason why y'all are defending her, the only reason why y'all are arguing back and forth online with actual professional therapists, with people who have earned not only the degrees, but the license to practice therapy, is because of how she look. The way that people are arguing and defending this woman is the same how people argue and defend the president of the United States, even though it's been proven that he is not qualified to do the job that he's doing. I get that y'all like her. I get that she is pretty. I get that the body is tea. But we have to be so fucking for real. Nobody should be misrepresenting themselves as a therapist. Nobody should be calling themselves a doctor in a professional setting if their doctorate is an honorary degree. Nobody should be seeing clients or having sessions if they are not licensed or have the education to do so. I don't even know why this is up for debate. Y'all tripping.
Hey y'all, we're going to do another YAP session. Now I know I don't typically do YAP sessions very often, but there is so much going on that I just feel like I need to talk about. Now, two things, because we're going to make this in one video. I ain't supposed to be doing two, okay? Two things, and they connected somewhat. The first thing is, have y'all seen the high school student that went around and was asking kids to read a piece of paper that had a sentence on there or something like that that had the word silhouette, extraordinary, and gouache on there, okay? And so from the ones that I saw, none of the kids, not a one, knew how to pronounce these words and did not know what they meant. The funny thing about this is I used to be in this group, a step group. Was it a singing group? Either way, 80s baby, we be doing a lot. And our literal name was Silhouette. And so I found it so weird that this is the word that they are struggling with. Either way, that's not the point. My question is to the parents. Do y'all no longer do like the pizza parties if you read a bunch of books? Or what was that called? The Book It program or something like that. I can't remember. I'm showing my age. So I can't remember what it was. Or the Scholastic Book Fair. Now, I was the kid that had my Scholastic Book Fair order form completely read, discussed with my family, budgeted, and filled out before the book fair even got there. I was ahead of time. I was always making sure I got my pizza parties or my individual pan pizza, whatever pepperoni. I wanted them pepperoni, thank you. Not cheese, pepperoni. Unless we was getting like a group pizza party, and then we was getting that from Little Caesars a lot, and I like their cheese pizza. But that's not the point. The point is, where are the parents out of these kids? Like, are we not working on building their intellect outside of what is required in the school? Because let's just be honest, the American school system is trash. It was pretty trash when I was going. Are we not having like extra books or things like that we require of our kids to read? Because I know I had book reports. I was still in school. In fact, I graduated. I think I only needed like 22 credits to graduate from high school. I graduated with probably like 30 credits because I was just going to school in the summertime sometimes. Because I like to learn stuff. Anyway, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is something that is going on, this discourse between, what is that girl name? Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant and Dr. Raquel Martin. Now, I'm going to chime in as a doctor. Now, I'm going to say this. I have a ED, okay? An education doctorate in the field of counseling psychology. Now, that is different from a PsyD. That is different from a PhD. That is different from an MD. That's different from a JD. They're all different, okay? That is your line of education that you receive, okay? That's the path. That's the direction that I chose to go. I chose to get an ED because at the time of me getting my doctorate, my mother was going through stage, I believe it was 3B breast cancer. And I made a deal with her that I would not put my degree on hold, but I also was not leaving her to go get no damn doctorate. Okay? If y'all don't know, I'm a breast cancer survivor as well. I had breast cancer almost 10 years to the date after my mother ended up getting breast cancer. I say all that to say this. I also have a license, okay? And in my Work It Out Wednesdays, y'all always hear me say, hey, Wallflowers, my name is Dr. Nichelle Wall, licensed mental health practitioner or professional or something of that nature. Because I need y'all to know this is not opinion-based, okay? Because sometimes my opinions be real different than what them ethics be, okay? And because I am held to that standard, that license that the state of Texas has given me, when I took that National Counselor Examination, the NCE, that is now housed under the NBCC, I have a requirement to show up a different way. I have a requirement to show up and make sure that I'm not doing no harm to nobody. Now, that's not to say that you can't go out there and be a life coach. Go be a life coach. Get your little certification. Ain't nothing wrong with that. A lot of us got other certifications and other things. Certifications is still on the line of knowledge, getting more and more knowledge. But it is not the same as having licensure, because you have a different set of regulations and requirements, continuing education. You are held to a higher standard. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to need somebody to be held to a higher standard when they're dealing with my mind or my body. Because a cosmetologist got a license too, you know. A dermatologist is different than an esthetician. Now, they can be the same because maybe they got both. But the point I'm trying to make is, don't let pretty politics, respectability politics, or any of that other psycho babble crap that you may not understand get you in a situation that you're not going to be able to get out of. It don't make no sense. And that ties me back to my first topic, okay? Because we have a lack of knowledge and a lack of information that is running amok in the communities that we live and breathe and work in, a lot of people don't know that what Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant said is actually false. You don't get a license just to be able to, what did she say with her words? Because I don't want to mess up her words. Just to be able to use insurance. In fact, most people that I know get away from insurance. I use insurance because I want people to be able to use whatever product they can to come and see me. I have people that are on Medicaid, Medicare. I have people who use their Obamacare, ACA insurance. I have people who use the insurance that their job provides them. I also have private pay people. Okay? And private pay people. Thank you. I appreciate you. But the point I'm trying to make is Dr. Raquel Martin said the correct thing. There is a difference in having a doctorate in something and having a licensure in something, and y'all not having the knowledge to understand that is going to get y'all in a world of trouble. Just some of the things Dr. Bryant has said about how she shared information with us about a client that she's had, you know, how she's shared, you know, her habits with certain individuals that she has counseled, you know. And in the reality, she didn't counsel, she coached them, because there's a difference, and she needs to really go back and correct what she recently said, because it goes back to what I said on a different YAP session about the girl who let her license go. The harm that you are causing and the lack of responsibility that you are taking is going to wreak havoc on somebody who does not have the discernment to be able to tell the difference between what you are saying and if it is really true or not. Now, I done said all I'm going to say, because I feel like I done said too much. But at the end of the day, I need y'all to really study and understand what people are saying. Don't just take it at face value, because honestly, sometimes people just be talking out the side of their damn neck. Okay? Everybody that look good and put together is not always following things from a place of integrity. That's been the key word this week, integrity. And what we are finding out is that a lot of people that we trust just ain't got that. Y'all have a good day. I'll see y'all later. I might post something else later. I'm gonna go get in this shower. Because there's too much going on. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
As someone who did the work to get their license, I'm going to say this one thing and I'm going to be done. A psychology expert life coach is the equivalent to a veneer technician. So Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant is to mental health what a veneer technician from Instagram is to dentistry. She can do whatever you want to do with that information, because I will not be explaining any further.
I did a video previously about the large amount of grift in the Black community, and I talked about that category of people who have a lot of like Black pastor in them, a little bit of the church isms, Black colloquialisms, and then they mix that with just coming home from doing some fed time. You know, so there's a certain type of shape shifting that they do. But there is another category where people throw doctor in front of their name and pretend to be highly educated. And they use terms that are widely accessible to anybody. If you just have Google and now a little bit of AI, and they use that terminology to pretend to have a particular type of expertise that they do not have. And if you dig deeper, the nuance, everything falls apart. I'm telling you this because Dr. Raquel Martin had the most graceful and glorious read of Cheyyanne Bryant. I'm gonna say Cheyyanne Bryant because I don't know her credentials. I know she's a great podcast caster, and when I had looked her up, it said she went to the University of Phoenix, and I don't know. So I'm just no shade. I know what Dr. Raquel's credentials are. I don't know Cheyyanne Bryant's real credentials, and so there's quite a large dichotomy between the two of them. Besides the point, listen. People are coming for Dr. Martin because, you know, Cheyyanne is their favorite. You've seen her all up and down your timelines. She's on your favorite podcast. She was on Teen Mom, evidently. She has created this celebrity status. And if you don't know, she recently talked about how she gave up her licensure. Okay, she's on Joe Budden. And she gave it up. And she said because it was easier to see people without the credentials and the insurance requirements. And Dr. Raquel said it's a very clear lapse of ethics. Just very clear. And Dr. Raquel is a doc. We know her credentials, okay? The girls didn't like that. And so I want to share an analogy about why I think people coming for her and dragging her is absolutely egregious. I am an attorney who has a Juris Doctorate, right? I got my degree from them people law school. I then took the bar exam and I passed it, which means that I am a licensed attorney. My license is currently inactive because I don't represent clients in court. But you can have a JD, a Juris Doctorate, and not have a comma ESQ behind your name because you have not taken the bar exam, which some white people say allows for you to represent someone in a court of law. What Cheyyanne is saying, effectively, if her PhD, let's give her that, is from a credentialed institution, what she is saying is, here's an analogy, I, Tashira, could represent you in court because I have a JD, even though I ain't got no comma ESQ behind my name. So you come to me, you like, girl, the Fed's been watching. Motherfucker, they done got me on a RICO charge, bitch. It's giving a real life YSL. I need you to represent me in court. Shit done got real. I said, you know what? I'll be right there. Knowing I don't have a license to represent you in a court of law. Now, I can Google, I can figure out some discovery, I can figure out rules of evidence, I can figure out, but realistically, I'm using the knowledge that I could have got from motherfucking Perry Mason, from Matlock. You know, dating myself. That's what I'm actually using to represent you. And I'm also showing up every day. I'm suited and booted. Makeup is done. Bitch, hair is laid. Every time I'm holding press conferences. I'm on podcasts. I'm doing all the things. I am celebritizing the courtroom. But realistically, I ain't got not a nary And then when somebody says, well, wait a minute, Cheyyanne, why haven't you made your actual appearance in court, right? Term of art. Why have you not actually gone before the court? And then I'm going to say, well, that's them white people. That's them white people. Hey, why you worried about the white man? I'm here to support the black community. I'm here to support black people. It's an unjust criminal justice system, cradle to prison pipeline. I start to use buzzwords that are known to position myself as being pro-black. But whole time I know I don't have a fucking license to represent you in a court of law. I have a JD. I don't know that lady. I don't know her. But anytime somebody says to you, I can make more money when I am not licensed, we should be very, very, very concerned.
I no longer practice under a license. Right now I'm in private practice, I'm saying. And that's what people don't understand, right? So just to educate some folks a little bit.
Hello, my name is Dr. Raquel Martin. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, professor of sciences, and podcast host who specializes in Black health and well-being. And I want to break down a clip from the Joe Budden podcast featuring someone who presents herself as Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant. But before we dive in, I want to make something incredibly clear. Having a doctorate does not mean someone is a licensed mental health professional. You can have a doctorate in literature and be unlicensed, and you are still a doctor. You can have a doctorate in education and hold an LPC, being a licensed professional counselor, and you are a licensed mental health professional, and you are still a doctor, but your doctorate is not in psychology. When evaluating anyone's credentials, it's really critical to look at two things: what their doctorate is actually in, and whether they hold a relevant clinical license. In this case, the person you're about to hear from is unlicensed. I'm going to break down why that matters and why this particular message is harmful, especially to the Black community that she claims to be serving and that I actually serve.
A license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
That is incredibly misleading. Yes, you do need a license to bill insurance, but that is not why licensure exists. Licensure protects you. It means I have completed specific education and supervised clinical hours, passed rigorous exams, and I'm accountable to a regulatory board. If I breach confidentiality, if I cross ethical boundaries or harm you, you have somewhere to file a complaint and be sure that I'm held accountable. A license is not paperwork just for billing. It's a consumer protection. When someone drops or loses or no longer has a license, they're not solely avoiding the insurance hassle. They're also removing your recourse if something goes terribly wrong.
Not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science rules and regulations and ethics. And so it just opened up a whole nother, floor in industry for me.
And she's also saying this like it's a good thing. I want to state something really important. Ethics codes exist to protect you from exploitation and boundary violation and providers practicing outside of their competence. When someone celebrates being free from ethical oversight, I want you to think of that as a red flag, a flashing one. It's a warning sign because those rules exist because real harm happens when they're not in place. So celebrating that you don't have to be accountable to that should be concerning to you.
As a therapist, two things: you can obviously make what you deserve because therapy is real. We're giving everything we have in there, and we're unpacking shit, and we're helping you process through things. So it's not us sitting there, well, if you're an effective therapist, saying, tell me more. You should be unpacking, and you should be able to take somebody and drive with them to their goal.
And here's another thing. She keeps calling herself a therapist, and in most states, that's actually illegal without a license. You cannot legally use the title therapist or provide psychotherapy without licensure. What she's describing now is coaching, and coaching and therapy are fundamentally different. Coaches help with goals and accountability. Therapists are trained to diagnose and treat mental health conditions, trauma and depression and suicidality and psychosis. If someone with untreated bipolar disorder or PTSD thinks they're getting therapy from a coach, they're going to be seriously harmed. These are actual conditions that go undiagnosed and untreated, especially within the Black community.
My clients, the truth is that in order to bill insurance, I have to diagnose you. And you only get about 6 weeks. In order for me to get 6 more weeks approval, guess what?
This frames diagnosis as something imposed on you solely for insurance purposes, and that's backwards. A diagnosis isn't a billing trick. It's clinically meaningful information that guides treatment. And the 6 weeks claim is also not accurate across the board. Now, I'm not saying that we should not be addressing insurance, because we need to rise up when it comes to insurance authorizations, like we very much do. That is a different video. But insurance authorizations vary widely by plan, diagnosis, and medical necessity. Many people receive months of years of covered therapy. And she's also making it sound like licensure forces short-term diagnosis-driven care. And that's just simply not how it works as someone who is actually a licensed mental health professional.
Majority of people who know that in order to bill insurance as a therapist or a physician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, you have to diagnose. So what do they rather do? Pay out of pocket.
That's what I do.
And so when I realized that, I thought, well, okay, it may create a gap within our community, our Black community, who can't afford health care or afford mental health services.
I hear the concern and the access problem is real. Her solution, unregulated, unlicensed coaching, isn't the answer. And there are a wealth of licensed Black therapists, he, she, and they, Black-owned practices, sliding scale clinics, community mental health centers doing this work with their licensure intact, keeping their credentials because their clients deserve protection. The solution to healthcare access gaps isn't removing safeguards. It's expanding access to regulated care. It's providing more scholarships for people like us to get the training necessary. It's more support group. It's actually mutual aid, but it's not what she is stating.
I'm in private practice. I make much more money. It allows me to have more leverage and really be hands-on with my clients. I'm not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science rules and regulations and ethics.
And I want to be honest about what's really happening here, because the messaging is awful to me. The pitch to potential clients is, I can give you more personalized care. The pitch to herself is, I make significantly more money and I'm not bound by any kind of oversight. And those are two entirely different things. And when your financial incentive is disconnected from professional accountability, that is a conflict of interest. However, she is not bound by anything when it comes to conflicts of interest, because the only thing that she is bound by is the limits of her own ethics and morality. Look, coaching has real value, and y'all know I hold real coaches down. If you want goal accountability, a coach can help, but coaching is not therapy, and no coach worth their salt will say anything other. If you're dealing with mental health like anxiety and depression and trauma and these other things, you deserve a licensed mental health professional whose conduct is subject to oversight. And I know it sounds like gatekeeping, but it's truly basic safety. And it's important in communities where access has been denied historically. The answer has never been fewer protections for us as Black people. It has always been more access to regulated, accountable care, because we deserve that. And I also want to address that it took me some time to think about doing this video, because as a Black woman, it's just been really, really tough for us as Black women. And as someone who states that they advocate for the Black community, he, she, and they create programs for the Black community, is the founder of the largest mental health and education community for Black women in the country. I totally understand where we're at when I'm holding my programs and things of that nature. But I do want you to know that I always state that my Black love is also accountability. And being Black does not mean that when I'm dealing with other Black people, I'm pro-Blackness no matter what you do. That's just never going to be the case. So I don't want you to, I don't want to hear anything about like, oh, this is an attack on a Black woman. It's not solely, it was the aspect of supporting Black people was never about supporting just Black people no matter what they do. It's supporting Black people in love and also having accountability. And these messages are wrong, and they have been wrong, and they have consistently been wrong. And and as someone who has the size of a platform that I have, I think it's important for me to share psychoeducation and information, because I understand the significance of it. And I understand the significance of it because I'm actually working in this field. This is a really harmful message. And I do understand that there's this aspect of like things are entertainment, but these things are harming us. And I know they harm us because I'm actually working in the field. I am a doctor who creates content, but I do want to state that when I say the titles in the beginning of my video, I'm actively doing that work. I'm actively conducting research on Black identity development and mental health and well-being of the Black community. I am actively practicing as a licensed clinical psychologist and see patients weekly and have been seeing patients for over a decade. I am actively a professor and working with youth, I am actively a health educator when it comes to training clinicians in cultural humility so that they can serve us better. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of individuals will say it's not that deep or state that it's just entertainment is because, one, you think mental health in psychology is just folk wisdom, and it's not, it's a science. And two, you guys are very insulated from the field that you claim to be discussing because you don't work in that field and you haven't in quite some time. But as someone who walks into the offices and sees the clients and goes to the talks and does the community programs, we are struggling. And these little entertainment only pieces that are spreading misinformation, you're doing more harm for the Black community than you know. And the reason why you don't know is because you're so insulated from the Black community. You just sit in front of these mics and you make all these money and you do all these Patreons and you wear these crazy hats and you do all that. But I would actually say I don't see these kind of places as pro-Black. I don't. And the only way you would know that is if you did the work that I do. And you're never going to, because one, you're not qualified. And two, it would break you down. It will break you down every single day. I've never heard so many people saying licenses and degrees didn't matter until more Black people started getting licenses and degrees.
Pretty don't mean safe. I need y'all to hear me on this one. So I've been seeing clips of Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant on the Joe Budden podcast, right? And listen, I'm not about to debate licenses and credentials because you guys, I leave that up to the experts, the professionals, and y'all can go find their videos in which they talk about that. I'm going to talk about something else. What I want to talk about is looking at how pretty privilege moves. Because let's get real, when somebody looks good, presents right, smiles good, smells good, people start to relax. They let their guard down. And that's human nature. But when you know you have that effect on people and you choose to present yourself in spaces with vulnerable people, that's something else. We got to start asking questions. See, my spidey sense has been up since day one on her, because the first time I ever learned about her was through Basketball Wives. She was a friend of Jackie Christie's. And it's like, well, you're going to give advice to everybody, but Jackie Christie is your messy ass friend? Girl, all credibility lost. Now, fast forward, you're watching how she move. You're watching this stuff. And I need my community to hear this. Everybody that looks like you, smiles at you, talks like you, they not for you. Sometimes those people are banking on you to trust them because of that. And when it's all said and done, you left with empty pockets and an empty soul. So I'm asking y'all, is this pretty privilege or is this exploitation? Let's talk about it.
What Dr. Raquel said is the fact. It is the fact, and it is the truth. You want the title of a doctor without the work. You want the title of a counselor, of a psychotherapist without the work. And the actual people who have done the work, who have gone through the rigorous training to get to that title, to get to that license, they are telling you all the truth. But yet, y'all want to listen to other people who haven't done the work. Black psychologists make up about 5% of psychologists' population in America. 5%. Do you know what it takes to go through the training to get there? Do you know what Black mental health professionals have to go through in the field? Do you know what Black licensed psychotherapists have to go through to get licensed? We are not going to let anyone damage the integrity of Black licensed mental health professionals, Black academia, Black researchers, Black supervisors, Black mental health professionals who have done the work, gone to school, done the hours, took the exam, clinical hours to get to that. We are not going to let anyone damage the integrity. Already Black mental health professionals, Black researchers, Black academians are being side-eyed in the field. Already we have to prove why we want to serve the people we serve. We want to prove why Black mental health is important. We want to prove why African mental health is important. We want to prove why immigrants' mental health is important. So we are not just going to sit back and watch you all damage the integrity, damage the work that we have done. We are not going to sit down and watch you all bully Dr. Martin. We know what we are saying. If that lady has the education and the license, she will show us. Even if she decided to voluntarily relinquish her license, she will still have a license number that will show that she voluntarily relinquished it, or she allowed her license to lapse. She didn't renew it. That is public information from the California Board of Psychologists. She can just show us and tell us, and then all of us will be put to shame. All of us will be put to shame. And we know what we know, okay? We know what we know.
Have you all seen that video with Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant where she's saying that she's no longer going to use her license to provide therapy and how the system is designed to create barriers? We'll take a look.
Practice under a license. Right now I'm in private practice. Saying it. And that's what people don't understand, right? So just to educate some folks a little bit, I love
presents herself as Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant. But before we dive in, I want to make something incredibly clear. Having a doctor does not mean someone is a licensed mental health professional. You can have a doctorate in literature and be unlicensed, and you are still a doctor. You can have a doctorate in education and hold an LPC, being a licensed professional counselor, and you are a licensed mental health professional, and you are still a doctor, but your doctorate is not in psychology. When evaluating anyone's credentials, it's really critical to look at two things: what their doctorate is actually in, and whether they hold a relevant clinical license. In this case, the person you're about to hear from is unlicensed. I'm going to break down why that matters and why this particular message is harmful, especially to the Black community that she claims to be serving and that I actually serve.
Now, here's another licensed professional coming against what she said. Now, she's defending the system and defending regulation and defending structure. So let me step in and not tear anyone down. I just want to offer a different perspective that most people aren't even thinking about, because the truth is both of them are actually right in certain parts, but they are both actually very wrong at the root of the core issues. And so when we talk about protection, that doesn't mean safe. And so I want to deal with this idea that licensure equals protection. I understand the intention. I really, really do. But history, I mean, real history, not curated, not sanitized, watered down history they fed us in schools is not really telling the same story. It tells a very different story. And licensed professionals have harmed Black people for generations, for centuries. And that's not an opinion, that's record. And let's talk about those receipts, because you know I always come with those receipts. Black men in the 1960s and the 1970s were disproportionately diagnosed with schizophrenia, not because of clinical truth, but because they were labeled as aggression and paranoia. Now, if you've ever read the book The Protest Psychosis by Dr. Jonathan Metzl, the diagnosis itself was actually weaponized against Black men. Then you had this term called drapetomania. Yes, that was a real medical diagnosis in 1851 by Dr. Samuel Cartwright. Do y'all know what that diagnosis was for? Well, it was considered a disease of enslaved Africans who were wanting to run away to freedom, escape their oppressors. A licensed physician called the desire for liberty a mental illness. Let's talk about the Tuskegee syphilis study in 1932 through 1972. 40 years. Licensed doctors, licensed researchers watched Black men suffer and die while withholding penicillin. 40 years, people. 40. Then we have Henrietta Lacks. Her cells were taken without consent by licensed medical professionals at Johns Hopkins. Her family didn't even know until decades later. What about that forced sterilization of Black, Native, and Puerto Rican women performed by licensed OB-GYNs, blessed by licensed psychiatrists, by those who deemed these women as unfit? North Carolina alone sterilized over 7,600 people through their eugenics board. What about Eugene Williams, Walter Freeman, the lobotomy industry? Ice picked through the eye sockets performed thousands of times on stage with applause, licensed. These people were licensed. We celebrated these people. We awarded them. The American Psychological Association didn't apologize for its role in upholding racism, slavery, and segregation until October 2021. 2021. Read that again. So let's not act like the system has been a safe haven for us. It's only been a weapon.
A license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
That is incredibly misleading. Yes, you do need a license to bill insurance, but that is not why licensure exists. Licensure protects you. It means I have completed specific education and supervised clinical hours, passed rigorous exams, and I'm accountable to a regulatory board. If I breach confidentiality, if I cross ethical boundaries or harm you, you have somewhere to file a complaint and be sure that I'm held accountable. A license is not paperwork just for billing. It's a consumer protection. When someone drops or loses or no longer has a license, they're not solely avoiding the insurance hassle. They're also removing your recourse if something goes terribly wrong.
Not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science Rules and Regulations and Ethics. And so it just opened up a whole nother, floor in industry for me.
And she's also saying this like it's a good thing. I want to state something really important. Ethics codes exist to protect you from exploitation and boundary violation and providers practicing outside of their competence. When someone celebrates being free from ethical oversight, I want you to think of that as a red flag, a flashing one. It's a warning sign because those rules exist because real harm happens when they're not in place. So celebrating that you don't have to be accountable to that should be concerning to you.
So let's talk about this idea of competency, because competency does not equal character. Because you just said, doctor, that licensures keep people within their scope. But let me ask you something for real. Since when did education determine morality? Listen, I hate to be the one to bring up a movie on into this, but the picture is too perfect to ignore. I mean, y'all remember that movie, Hannibal Lecter? One of the top tier psychiatric doctors who was brilliant, highly trained and licensed, and the whole entire time he was a cannibal. Now, before you tell me that's just a movie, let me give you the real roster, because I mean, we do have real life examples, okay? What about Dr. Walter Freeman, who performed nearly 3,500 lobotomies, many on women, many on children, many without consent? He was a licensed neurologist, and he was actually praised in his time, and he destroyed lives, including Rosemary Kennedy's. What about Dr. J. Marion Sims? He was called the father of modern gynecology, performed surgical experiments on enslaved black women, including Betsy, Lucy, and others, without anesthesia. He was licensed, okay? Some still standing, statues. What about Dr. Harold Shipman? He was a licensed British physician, and he murdered an estimated 250 plus patients. One of the most prolific serial killers in history. The license meant something. What about Dr. Larry Nassar? Y'all remember him? He was a licensed sports physician. He was sexually abusing hundreds of his young athletes, including Olympic gold medalists, for decades, while every credential was current and every supervisor signed off on it. What about Dr. Joseph Mengele? The angel of death. That's what they used to call him. Licensed physician, a PhD in anthropology, experimented at Auschwitz. Education didn't make him righteous. It made him more efficient to do what he was doing, which was evil. Okay? So I want y'all to understand, a license does not mean a person is good. It means they were approved by a Luciferian system to get away with what they do. And a system can be and has been corrupt for quite some time.
As a therapist, two things. You can obviously make what you deserve, because therapy is real. We're giving everything we have in there. And we're unpacking shit, and we're helping you process through things. So it's not us sitting there with your an effective therapist saying, tell me more. You should be unpacking. And you should be able to take somebody and drive with them to their goal.
And here's another thing. She keeps calling herself a therapist, and in most states that's actually illegal without a license. You cannot legally use the title therapist or provide psychotherapy without licensure. What she's describing now is coaching, and coaching and therapy are fundamentally different. Coaches help with goals and accountability. Therapists are trained to diagnose and treat mental health conditions, trauma and depression and suicidality and psychosis. If someone with untreated bipolar disorder or PTSD thinks they're getting therapy from a coach, they're going to be seriously harmed. These are actual conditions that go undiagnosed and untreated, especially within the Black community.
Now, sis, who taught you ethics? Because let's be real. Now, I want to talk about this because this is where it gets uncomfortable for some people, and honestly, it should. See, because you keep throwing around words like ethics, standards, and morality. But baby, let's be honest. You learned your ethics from a Luciferian system, a system that doesn't even believe in the creator who made heaven and earth. Shall we be honest? And I don't even have to dig up deep proof to prove it. The very moment a system normalizes what you keep repeating, which is pronouns he, she, they, them as identity truth, pronouns assigned to by feeling instead of design, we already know that there's a problem. You've already revealed that your foundation is not rooted in truth or the creator, because confusion of identity is not from Yahuwah. He is not the author of confusion. So now I have to ask the question that nobody wants to sit with. How are you going to define truth when the system you trust rejects the one who created the truth? Right. And here's the part that should wake everybody up. You are being guided, diagnosed, and healed by the very same system that enslaved you. I must clutch my pearls. And we're supposed to act like that's normal? No, boo-boo. Let me bring those receipts, because the 3/5 compromise of 1787, Black people were written into law as 3/5 of a human being and reinforced by the intellectual and scientific voices of that day. Licensed, educated, approved by their Luciferian system. What about Sigmund Freud, celebrated as the father of psychoanalysis? Built much of his framework around sexuality applied to children, family, relationships, and dreams. Society cannibalized him. The Bible would call it perversion, wouldn't it? What about Alfred Kinsey? His groundbreaking sex research included data sourced from the documented abuse of children. Yet, his work still shapes modern sexology and university curriculums to this very day. What about Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, celebrated by many, awarded honors, and openly tied to eugenics movements that targeted the Black community, who we know are the real Jews? Her words are public record. I mean, we can go back and look it up, right? What about Henry Kissinger? People with documented blood on their hands handed the Nobel Peace Prize, the world's highest honor for peace. And yet you have today's headlines, intellectuals, professors, and tenured researchers openly defending and, in some cases, attempting to normalize incest, pedophilia, under academic language like minor attracted persons, tenured, awards, book deals. And this is what you call a structured system? Let me get this straight. You trust the system that demonizes you, that dehumanizes you, to now define your mental health and your identity? See, that's not protection. That's indoctrination.
The part about this, I make much more money. It allows me to have more leverage and really be hands-on with my clients. I'm not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science of Science Rules and Regulations and Ethics.
And I want to be honest about what's really happening here, because the messaging is awful to me. The pitch to potential clients is, I can give you more personalized care. The pitch to herself is, I make significantly more money and I'm not bound by any kind of oversight. And those are two entirely different things. And when your financial incentive is disconnected from professional accountability, that is a conflict of interest. However, she is not bound by anything when it comes to conflicts of interest, because the only thing that she is bound by is the limits of her own ethics and morality. Look, coaching has real value, and y'all know I hold real coaches down. If you want goal accountability, a coach can help, but coaching is not therapy, and no coach worth their salt will say anything other. If you're dealing with mental health, like anxiety and depression and trauma and these other things, you deserve a licensed mental health professional whose conduct is subject to oversight. And I know it sounds like gatekeeping, but it's truly basic safety, and it's important in communities where access has been denied historically. The answer has never been fewer protections for us as Black people. It has always been more access to regulated, accountable care, because we deserve that.
Now, sis, when you said that you make more money, you said everything. Now, to Miss Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant, I want to say this plainly, because I need you to understand, when you first make that statement that you get to make more money, you already revealed your heart. You already told on yourself, because in that one sentence, you announced that your whole purpose is not really to truly help people. It's to leverage how much money you can make off their pain. And see, that's exactly why the Bible separates shepherds from hirelings. In John chapter 10, verses 12 through 13, it says, "But he that is an hireling, not the shepherd, who owns the sheep, or not seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep and fleeth, because he is a hireling, and care not for the sheep." That looks like something, the fruit that you're demonstrating. See, the shepherd lays his life down. The hireling runs the moment. The assignment costs him something. And it's the same reason our churches are screwed up right now, because many claim to be carrying Yahuwah's word, but they're more concerned about lacing their pockets than setting the captives free. See, these are real lives, real names, and real receipts. What about Creflo Dollar? The 65 million private jet appeal. Asked his congregation to fund a Gulfstream G650 so he could preach the gospel. Meanwhile, families in his pews are choosing between rent and groceries. What about Pastor Jamal Bryant? He went viral for his now infamous Lamborghini sermon and the Sunday best prosperity culture, while real saints in the pews still bound, still broken, still searching for actual deliverance. What about Kenneth Copeland defending private jets on television by saying he can't ride in a tube with a bunch of demons? Net worth in the hundreds of millions. The sheep keep sowing though. What about Benny Hinn? Admitted himself late in his career that he had overemphasized the prosperity gospel after decades of milking the message and profiting off of it. What about Bishop Eddie Long, Carlton Pearson, Todd Bentley? We also have many more. Shall I name them? Names the church doesn't want to bring up, but every one of them was licensed, credentialed, and platformed. So yes, the secular system has issues, but a heart driven by gain instead of genuine healing will always go bad. See, that's not just a system problem, that's a spirit problem. But I even want to go deeper, because this is the part that nobody wants to say out loud. You called it therapy, the therapist, but let me break that word down for you. The rapee. The rapist. And listen, I'm not here to say this for shock value. I mean, words do mean something, right? I'm just saying it so that you can think on it just a little bit more, because look at the fruit of the system itself. I mean, it does tell you what happens. You go in, you unpack, you revisit trauma over and over again, you process, and then you return next week, and the week after, and the next after. And many people stay in that loop for years, not delivered, not free, just managed. The system is designed to manage, not necessarily to resolve or break you free, because see, resolved people don't pay co-pays or insurance. And then comes the prescription pad, psychiatrists, prescribed medication based on what they call a chemical imbalance. But here's the little dirty secret that they don't want to put in commercials. The chemical imbalance theory was never really proven. We know that it was a lie. Well, in 2022, they decided to come out and share that it was a lie. A major umbrella review published in the Molecular Psychiatric Journal by Dr. Joanna Moncrief and her team concluded that there is no convincing evidence that depression is caused by a serotonin imbalance. The very foundation of the SSRI marketing machine collapsed. Yes. So what was the whole point? Well, maybe it was to sell pills, keep you on those pills, make big pharma rich, sedate the systems, and then it never touches the actual root of your problem as to why you are experiencing depression and mental illness. Meanwhile, the Bible, the original diagnostic manual, already told us where the real fight is happening. Ephesians 6:12 tells us we fight not with flesh and blood, but with principalities, powers, and rulers of darkness of this world against spiritual wickedness in high places. So how are you going to treat spiritual battle with purely psychological models? How are you going to medicate a stronghold? How are you going to talk therapy your way out of generational covenants and demonic assignments? You have a system that ignores the creator and yet does everything in its power to disprove him. They call it science like you did, but Yahuwah's word said it first. Science is just now catching up.
Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant is under fire again. Now, I don't know why these people keep having this woman on their shows, man. Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant, man, she come. This is funny. You know, she done been on Cam Newton's show. She got exposed. Tasha K exposed her. She went over to Paul Pierce, and Paul Pierce just laid her out. Paul Pierce said, "Ain't you from Inglewood, man? I know you. I know how you get down." And he really exposed her. He had her on there stuttering, right? She's one of the women that always try to come on there and tell you what to do, how you should be doing things. She ain't never been married, never had no kids. She's been allegedly exposed as being part of the Skittles crew, a whole bunch of stuff. But she's supposed to be a doctor, right? But she's under fire because a lot of people have been questioning, you know, the way she does things. Now, she went to this party and she had on this scantily clad clothes, right? See-through, cooch lips hanging out. I mean, like literally hanging out to the point where she had to cover herself, right? She out there and she went on the Joe Budden's podcast and they was basically, you know, pressing her like, yo, how you a doctor and you out here giving these young women advice and you out there, you got your boobs out. I mean, literally your cooch hanging out because you got this lace see-through with no drawers on, no nothing. Like you just wilding out, right? And, you know, they asking her that, but she getting pushed back to the things she say and she just start like, you know, in Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant fashion. Let's get off into it.
Because I'm a start off so slow.
Y'all so nasty.
Stupid,
Y'all
dog.
so
I thought you looked amazing.
Listen,
I think it's
but,
too.
and this is the other thing, right? Yes, it was a black tie affair.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeezy's rapping about trapping and dope dealing and hood stuff. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was at an opera.
You was on your trap queen.
A gospel. I mean, I'm at a gospel concert. You know, so it was, for me, I had a tail behind my little lace, and it was black tie for me. And again, remember, like Doc rolls how I want to roll. I'm not here to be validated by anybody. I liked my outfit. I liked it. Even when I got downstairs in Vegas, I looked and I told my best friend, I said, girl, I said, I don't know.
This is validating.
I don't know if this is going to be black tie. And then I looked again, I said, you know what? I'm rolling with what I want to wear.
All right, but that's different though.
Yeah.
Like, because you acknowledging that's not black tie. You just said I wanted to do this anyway. That's cool.
She said the tail was her version of black tie, Freeze.
Yeah, that's what I did say. But
I understand you, but that's we know what black tie. Like, would you wear that to a wedding? To if it's a black, would you wear that to the Oscars?
That's why I said I wouldn't wear it to a wedding.
I got a question for the public. This should be an interesting one. And please, just be honest. Would you prefer someone to have credentials or experience? when it comes to certain conversations, especially when it comes down to relationships, dating, and things of that nature? Or can you do with a blend of both? I seen a post where Joe Budden is talking about Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant, and we've been down that rabbit hole before. I think she's a grifter personally, but you know, you have your audience that listens to her, Fresh and Fit, and a long list of other names, but everybody doesn't have the degree, the plaque on their wall. So it's like, what do we really care more for? The person who has their ink dried on that piece of paper that says they're qualified to talk about this, or someone who has literally been in the trenches and went through hell and back, and they tell their story in a different way? How do you approach that?
And I wasn't going to say much about Dr. Bryant and the bullshit that she was talking about not being licensed until I seen this post where she was saying, I don't need a license because I'm the most sought out psychology expert, life coach there is. And it really made me think about the way that people have used the business model of maximizing profit with the least amount of work in every single space, from the nonprofit industrial complex to just mental health work in general. And she's a prime example of people making decisions because they want to maximize their profits with the least amount of work and effort put into it, because you don't want to be licensed because you don't want to have to actually do the necessary work to be good at providing necessary mental health services. You don't want to do the continuing education credits. You don't want to have to deal with licensing boards. You don't want to be held accountable if you fuck up. Because if the conversation was about providing accessible services and things of that nature, your prices just wouldn't be that high. But also, I really do blame capitalism for a lot of this, because you are only saying this because you don't want to have to go through the process that a lot of people have to go through when it comes to making money in this field. And if I can just sell you some ChatGPT ass life coaching expert advice, and under the guise of mental health, I can get these multi-million-dollar and thousands of dollars sponsorships for mental health workshops and things of that nature from corporate America, and these schools flying you out, and these podcasts paying your booking engagement fees, because then you're not providing anything that they can't go get off YouTube. And these corporations know that, and they're like, well, we'd rather pay for that than pay for somebody to come in who will actually make these people care about their mental health and wellness, because that might actually make them realize we're actually overworking them just a little bit. And then you're also playing and preying on people's vulnerabilities of the fact that they don't trust licensed clinicians. And you're also creating a dangerous narrative about what it means to be licensed. And that in itself is harmful for people's mental health. And I think that a lot of times these people be using the fact that they just want to make money to cause harm under the guise that they're just doing great work. And, you know, the insurance, because originally wasn't she talking about how it was insurance and that being such a scam and all these things? Like, she wrapped it up in this bow of like she was doing it for the greater good and all of that. Like, you are harmful and you are causing harm, and you don't want to be held accountable for the things that you advise people to do because you don't have a board holding you accountable to those things. And that in itself is dangerous as hell. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Hey, don't steal my content and talk about I tagged you like you're doing me a favor. I just saw a woman who made a video talking about Dr. Cheyyanne Bryant, who has been pretending allegedly to be a doctor, but is now trying to say she's not practicing under a doctorate anymore because she doesn't like insurance. A real clinical psychologist therapist made a video explaining what was going on. And then another content creator without a GED, allegedly, stole her entire video and put it up and is doing numbers. And then the real therapist is in the comments and says, this is actually my video. And she puts underneath the therapist, I tagged you. So she's in the Creator Rewards program, getting money off a stolen video. And she gonna say, when the lady busted her doing it, she gonna say, well, I tagged you. If you tag me when people have already watched the entire video, I'm not gonna get paid. You're gonna get paid. She just straight ripped her off. Please don't do that to me.